Welcome to Visual Scale Modelling. This is part 3 of Trumpeter's DRB Class 52 Locomotive. Scale is 135. In part 1 and 2, I began with the introduction, then moving on to part 1 with the construction of the base and rail track. In this part 3, I'm going on to the main build now. So I'm concentrating on the framework for the train and putting all the little bits and pieces on for that. So let's jump into this and see how I get on. So to begin with, I'm constructing, sub-assembly, all the little parts. And this is, at this stage, mostly for the wheel axis and cylinders that go in between the two main beams. There's also another piece that I'm making up here that has one of the links to join onto another carriage. That goes in without any cement, obviously, because I do want it to be free moving. Once I've done the little sub-assemblies, it's time to place them on. As you can see there, I've taken them all out, put them off the sprue, put them on my mat in the actual order that I'll be fitting each unit. So first of all is the main piece going on, and then the brackets for the axles. Next is the axles themselves. These can only go one way. The location point is a little round hole, but with an eyelet cut out of it to enable you to only put these parts in one way. So I've lined all the one side up, and it's just a simple case of placing the second beam onto it, and they just push in without any fuss. Next is making up the buffers. Obviously I have two sets of these, one for the front, one for the rear. The second set of buffers won't be going on until later on, but I'm making these up now. As you can see there's a little bit of framework that has to be built for the buffers. It's essentially just a box for them to sit into. The buffers themselves, the head of the buffer, one is flat and the other one's sort of concaved. Why that is, I'm not sure. After having a hard look at it, I assumed that one set would be one way and the other set would be the other, but it transpires that one set is the curved side and the other one is the flat side, so it's a bit strange, but the photographs I've seen, that's how they go. So now I'm making up the suspension system, and as you can see, the suspension bars are placed between two directional brackets, so the suspension can move up and down, although these are going to be cemented into position with no movement. And once the sub-assembly for one set have been done, it's time to place them on, and they just go onto the edge of the frame. There is tiny little location points for it to sit into. It takes a little bit of manoeuvring to get them all in place. I do want to get them all lined up properly, if not it will cause trouble down the line. And then next the buffer goes on, that just sits over the framework. Next is the construction for the part of the boiler which sits onto the main frame. It's a simple construction. Again, it's like a box, but slightly more complicated because of the shape. But they have location points running down the seam lines here where I'm putting the cement, so all fitted quite well. I just fitted the last piece, so you can see it there. The next stage is a complicated sub-assembly. First of all, there's some two sections that I have to build on their own. These are little curved girders type things. I don't know what they're called, so I'll just call them things, but they're just sandwiched together. And then for the actual main unit, as you can see, there's a few things got to go on. First of all, the support brackets are going on, and these are going to be holding the little two curved unit things that I just made up. And once they're in, I'm putting the two curved units in. There's two little location points on it. Now these don't get any cement, so I need them free moving. so I'm not waiting until the glue sets on the actual support bracket itself. Next to go in is this bar. Now, it took a lot of goes to fit this. As you see, I just popped out the support bracket just to get it in position. It was a bit tight, so in the end I did have to take these support brackets off completely and reassemble it so that I was able to get the bar through. And once I reassembled it, there's two little levers that go at the end of the bars to lock up the bar from not coming off, of course, and that also has some free movement. So now I'm going on to painting, and I'm using Umbral 60 Scarlet, and this is going to be the main colour for the framework. I'm using Mr. Hobby H2 Gloss Black. Now I decided here what black I should use for the main train, and I'll probably use a combination of different blacks, but for the boiler part of it I'm using this black. So while that's all drying, I'm just fitting the other parts, just test fitting them at the moment to see how they lie. And once I'm happy with them, I painted them and fitted them. I'm putting in a set of suspension bars here. These are a bit strange, they get pushed down through the framework. These are not cemented in position because I'm not sure what height they should be, but they're very tight anyway and they don't really need cement. So the bottom part of the boiler is next to go on, and these sit next to the suspension bars. And then I begin to put in the support beams inside the sachet. So first of all, the complicated one goes in first, and then the smaller ones will go in. There is little location points for these to run down onto, so it's quite easy to get them in position. And then there's plates that go on the in between the two side beams as well. Just strengthens it all up. There's a little groove runs right down the beam, which these sit into in between each supporting strut. Next to be assembled is the rear backing plate, and there's a couple of little support brackets that have to be placed on first. So there's one area that's raised off the main unit, so that has two upright brackets before the cross piece can go on. And once they're in place, I can then put in the cross piece, as you can see there. There is a location points for these to fit into, so there's no real issue of it being in the wrong place. So now I'm moving on to cylinders. There's various cylinders to make up. There's two in this part, each has one half. There's one smaller in the other, and it's a simple construction of the two halves, then the resting brackets go underneath. Also here are some little gaiters and piston rods that I'm making up as well. These will be connected near the boiler. So before painting, I'm just sanding the seam lines down on the cylinders, and then again add some of the little sub-assemblies on. So I'm adding some of the link bars for the suspension. I'm using Tamiya's XF84 Dark Iron, and that's for the coupler link bar. And once that's dry, I can carry on with placing on some of the levers and the little piston and gaiter that I assembled earlier on. The rod actually goes into a little hook, so it's quite important that I get that in place before I do anything else. And then once that's in, I'm just looking at the position of the back plate to go on to see the best way to fit it. I had a little bit of confusion exactly where this, how this fits, but after looking at the pictures and things, turning the main unit upside down, I was able to ascertain where it goes. The contact points are there, it just forms up one of the opening holes where the link bar goes, so it's a little bit confusing exactly how it goes, but nevertheless I went in. So the next part going in actually goes from the side. What this is for, again, I'm not too sure. But now I can place on the cylinders, and they just go in between the support beams, making sure that I put the smaller one in the right position. As I said, there's a small one and a larger one I have to go on. And carrying on, there's a small support beam just getting placed on near the end here. Next, I'm sub-assembling the drive units for the main piston bars that will go on beside the boilers. These they look complicated to build, but they're actually relatively quite easy. There's just 2 side panels put onto the main unit first of all, and then once they're on and dry, I can place on the outer pieces. First of all, there's the elongated one piece goes in, and then a sort of flywheel type thing that goes on. Next to be placed on is the main support beam, which will hold the actual boiler of the train. So this is quite important to get this properly lined up. It just fits inside the housing, and then just put the coverings on the areas on the outside areas, I should say. And the entire unit gets painted in H2 gloss black. That's from Mr. Hobby. And remember, there's 2 of these, so this is just one of them that I'm painting up at the moment. Next is to fit the housings that I just assembled. First of all, there's this dividing bracket that has to go in. This was quite tricky to fit. The location hole that I'm beside the housing, and it gets placed in, but it's an awkward shape. So you have to place it in while it's almost in position. So once I got one side on, I left it to dry or semi-dry until I put on the next side. Next to go on is the rear end piece. I'm not sure what this is for, but I do paint it in Mr. Hobby H2 gloss black. Just by looking at the photos, and it appears to be black. I can always change it later on if I've done it incorrectly. Next to go on is this little beam that I've sub-assembled. There's a little hook at the end there that just pushes onto a tie bar. As you can see, it just little hook just popped off. So I placed it on, then re-cemented it onto the actual bar itself. There's a little holding pin for it to sit into. Now the instructions say glue. I wasn't sure whether it should be glued or not, since it is a sort of a pin. I would have thought this thing moved, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just dropping in the pin now, and I just push down without any fuss. And now that's fitted, there's only 2 more things to place on, and that's 2 mud guards. If that's exactly what they are, I'm not sure, to be placed on. And these are painted in H2 gloss black by Mr. Hobby. So this will bring part 3 to an end. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds. If you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and you'll be kept up to date of all my upcoming builds in now and in the future. Hit that like button, leave a comment, and of course don't forget to share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.